I used to think marriage meant safety. I said that to myself the day I signed the papers and smiled for cameras. We'll be a team, she told me, calm and sure. I believed her because I wanted to. She was already a CEO, sharp and respected, and I was proud to stand beside her. Relax, she said that night. You're with me now. I thought that meant protection. At breakfast, she checked her tablet while I talked. I was thinking of taking a short break, I said. Maybe travel. She didn't look up. Next quarter, she replied. Your schedule is tight. My schedule? I asked. She smiled, gentle and firm. Our schedule. It sounded small, but it stayed with me. Every talk after that felt measured. Every choice needed approval. When I joked with her, she corrected me softly. When I disagreed, she ended the discussion with facts and deadlines. You don't need to worry, she said once. I handle complex things. I nodded, even when my chest felt heavy. People envied me. At parties, they said, You're lucky. She's powerful and loyal. She would squeeze my hand and smile for them. Later, at home, she would ask, Why did you say that? Or, next time, let me answer. I learned to pause before speaking. One evening, I called my best friend. Living the dream, he laughed. Penthouse, CEO wife, no stress. Yeah, I said. Perfect. Don't disappear on me, he added. You sound tired. I'm fine, I said, because explaining felt dangerous. That night, I tried to talk to her. Do you ever feel like we're negotiating instead of living? She set down her glass. That's marriage, she said. Structure keeps things safe. Safe for who? I asked. For us, she replied. Trust me. Her voice was calm, almost kind. I wanted to trust it. Weeks passed like meetings. She decided where we went, who we saw, what I shared. When I asked for space, she laughed. You're overthinking, she said. I'm protecting what we built. I watched her sign contracts with confidence. I watched people obey her without question. At home, I started doing the same. One night, I stood in the living room and whispered, I don't feel free. She looked at me, surprised. Free from what? I didn't have an answer that wouldn't sound ungrateful. She kissed my cheek. Get some rest, she said. Big day tomorrow. I lay awake, listening to the quiet. The apartment was huge, clean, expensive. It felt smaller than any place I had lived before. That was when it hit me. I hadn't lost freedom in a fight. I had signed it away, smiling, believing love would fill the gaps. I told myself this was normal. All couples adjust, I said in my head. Still, every door clicked louder at night. When she asked, Where were you? I answered too fast. When she said, I'll handle it, I stepped back. My name felt lighter, like it belonged to someone else. I stopped calling old friends. I stopped arguing. Silence became my skill. One morning she said, You trust me, right? I smiled and said yes. Inside, something folded. I realized love shouldn't feel like permission. It shouldn't feel like waiting. I was safe, admired, provided for, and slowly disappearing. Standing there, holding a coffee I didn't choose, I understood the truth I avoided. Freedom wasn't taken from me by force. It was traded line by line for comfort, praise, and peace that only worked for one of us. I whispered my own name, testing if it still sounded real. The walls answered with echo, not warmth. In that moment, I knew this home was organized, not lived in. I knew my smile had become a signature, not a feeling. And I understood the contract was emotional, silent, and binding. Signed every day without ink or witnesses inside my guarded heart. I started noticing patterns after I stopped defending her in my head. Small things first, too small to accuse, too clear to ignore. Traffic was bad, I said one evening. She didn't ask where I was. The meeting on 6th ended at 6:40, she replied. You left at 6:45, I froze. You track my meetings? She smiled. I remember things. At dinner with her board, I tried to answer a question. I think the market will shift after the third quarter, she finished smoothly. The room nodded. I smiled late, like an echo. Later in the car I said, You didn't let me finish. You hesitate, she replied. I help. At home, help became correction. Don't say that word. That joke sounds careless. Let me talk to them next time. Each sentence was soft. Each one erased something. Her assistant appeared more often. A woman with quiet eyes and perfect posture. She stood outside doors, held tablets, watched screens. She watched me too. This is Lena, my wife said. She keeps things running. Lena nodded. Good evening. When I asked Lena a question, she looked at my wife before answering. Always. One morning my card declined. I laughed at the counter. That's strange. At home I asked, did something happen to the account? She didn't look up. I move funds. Joint spending needs alignment. Alignment? I asked. We're married, she said. Transparency matters. That night my phone buzzed. A new app. Parental controls, disguised as security. I didn't install it, she noticed. You forgot, she said. I didn't agree. She laughed. Why would you hide things from me? I wouldn't, I said, unsure. Friends stopped calling. Invitations faded. When I asked about a dinner, she said, they're busy. When I texted, replies never came. At a party, someone asked me, how do you manage privacy with someone like her? I opened my mouth. She squeezed my arm. We don't need privacy, she said. We're aligned. In the kitchen later, I whispered, do you tell people what I think? She tilted her head. You think what we think. I tried to joke. Careful, you're starting to sound like my boss. She smiled wider. That's not funny. I told myself she was protecting me. High-profile life, I reasoned. Security risks. Still, Lena's eyes followed me. My wife's questions came before my stories. Why were you quiet? Who sat near you? Why didn't you answer at 8? One night I said lightly. Do you trust me? She laughed. Of course. That's why I check. That's not trust, I said, soft. She kissed my forehead. You're sensitive lately. I wanted to scream. Instead I nodded. In bed I stared at the ceiling. I replayed conversations, edits, pauses. I realized I was performing even when alone. Fear crept in slowly, like a dimmer switch turning down the room. The next morning Lena said, your calendar changed. I didn't change it. She smiled politely. It's updated. I stood in the bathroom and whispered, this isn't love. My reflection didn't argue. That evening I tried again. I need space, I said. Just a little. She laughed, warm and dismissive. Space from what? From being watched. She stood up, calm and tall. No one is watching you, she said. You're imagining threats because you're comfortable. Comfort. That word sat heavy. She took my phone, placed it on the table. I keep us safe, she said. You should be grateful. I nodded because arguing felt pointless. Later, alone, I packed nothing. I planned nothing. I just thought doors had cameras. Accounts had limits. People reported to her without speaking. Walking out wasn't bravery. It was ignorance. I lay back and accepted the truth forming in my chest. Love hadn't turned cruel. It had turned precise, quiet, measured, and I understood something that scared me more than control. Leaving wouldn't be a step. It would be a war. I packed a small bag at midnight, moving quietly like a thief in my own home. Shirts, charger, documents. I told myself it was temporary. I texted my friend, can I crash tonight? He replied, anytime. My hands shook. I whispered, I'm leaving. The word felt illegal. I opened the door. The lights turned on. She stood there calm, dressed, waiting. Going somewhere? She asked. My heart slammed. I realized this wasn't sudden. It was scheduled. I froze, staring at her eyes, calculating exits, excuses, lies, prayers, anything to breathe. The silence pressed harder than her voice ever did before. She smiled and said, sit. I didn't. You look nervous, she said. Work trip? I swallowed. I need space. She nodded. For me? I said nothing. You should have told me, she said gently. We have agreements. I laughed once. Marriage isn't a contract. She walked closer. Everything is. She gestured to the bag. You can't leave like this. I asked, why? She answered, because I planned for this. Sit, she repeated. You're emotional. I'll explain consequences slowly. I felt small, cornered, watched, as if walls were listening already. Her calm scared me more than shouting ever could have done before. She picked up her phone. I'll loop legal, she said. I said, please don't. She tapped once. It's done. The voice on speaker was smooth. This is Daniel. My wife said, he intends to leave tonight. Daniel replied, that would breach several clauses. I said, clauses? Daniel said, reputation, assets, non-disclosure. I asked, I can't leave my marriage? He paused. You can, he said. but not intact. My stomach dropped. I looked at her, searching for mercy. She smiled politely, like a meeting note. Daniel continued, "Think carefully. Public stories travel fast." She ended the call, satisfied, silent, composed. Still. I tried to argue. "I don't want money." She replied, "You want dignity." I said, "I want out." She said, "Those aren't the same." She listed consequences like weather. Friends choose sides. Companies close doors. I asked, "You do that?" She said, "I already did." My throat burned. "Why?" I asked. She answered, "Because chaos follows men who leave unprepared." She touched the bag, unpack. I couldn't breathe. I sat down dizzy while she watched, patient, victorious. "This is for your own good," she said, final. The room felt smaller, my voice thinner by the second, and I knew better. My friend called. I didn't answer. She watched it ring. "He worries," she said. "I'll fix that." I said, "Don't." She typed, "Done." The phone stopped. I imagined his confusion. "You can stay," she said. "We'll reset." I said, "This isn't love." She replied, "Love needs order." I laughed weakly. "You're scared," she said. "I'm prepared." The difference crushed me. I felt exposed, like evidence on a table. "You rest," she said. "We'll talk tomorrow." She turned away. The conversation was closed. I stared at the bag, useless, heavy, mine. Escape had been a fantasy, not a plan. Tonight proved it. I unpacked slowly. Each item felt like surrender. She stood nearby, silent. "Good choice," she said. I said nothing. My hands shook as I folded shirts back into drawers she chose. The door closed softly. Locks clicked. I sat on the bed and whispered, "I tried." No one answered. I understood then. Leaving wasn't blocked by doors or money. It was blocked by preparation I didn't have. Fear settled deep. I wasn't brave. I was trapped, educated, documented, and owned. That night taught me how complete control really looks. Quiet, calm, planned, and patient beyond escape, hope, anger, strength, belief. From the outside, my life looks perfect. Drivers open doors. Glass offices shine. People shake my hand like it matters. "You're lucky," strangers say. "You made it." I smile because that's expected. Inside, I feel like I'm walking in circles. My mother calls every Sunday. "Are you eating well?" She asks. "Yes," I say. "Your wife is extraordinary," she adds proudly. "Such grace. Such success." "She is," I reply. "You sound tired," she says. "I'm busy," I lie. I want to tell her everything. I want to say, "I feel trapped." Instead I say, "Don't worry." She talks about neighbors and prayers. I listen, silent, safe inside her belief that I'm happy. At work, people don't look at me. They look past me, toward her. In meetings, she speaks and rooms adjust. When I offer an idea, she reframes it. "What he means," she says smoothly. Heads nod. My words return to me improved, owned. That night she hosts a business dinner. The table is long, glasses sparkle. "My husband handles the softer details," she tells them, smiling. Laughter follows. Someone says, "Lucky man." She squeezes my knee under the table, gentle, warning. I try to speak. "Actually," she cuts in softly. "He worries too much," she says. "That's why I handle decisions." I smile late. The room moves on. In the kitchen later I say, "You embarrassed me." She tilts her head. "I protected you." "From what?" "From sounding unsure," she replies. I start questioning myself. Maybe I am weak. Maybe strong men don't feel like this. Maybe love really does require silence. When I hesitate, she steps in. When I doubt, she reassures me with facts, numbers, outcomes, control disguised as care. In the car she says, "You did well tonight." I ask, "By not speaking?" She laughs, "By trusting me." At home I wander through rooms that echo. Everything shines. Nothing feels mine. I open a drawer and see clothes she bought. I check my calendar and see meetings she scheduled. I wonder when my choices became optional. My phone buzzes. A colleague texts. Dinner was impressive. I type, "Thanks." I don't add more. Words feel monitored even when she's not there. I catch myself apologizing for nothing. "Sorry," I say when I bump into her. She doesn't notice. She's already planning tomorrow. Before bed she says, "You're safe with me." I nod. "Why do you look sad?" she asks. I'm tired, I answer. In the bathroom, I stare at my reflection. My face looks calm, controlled, successful. I practice a smile. It fits too easily. I ask the mirror, are you weak? It doesn't answer. I ask, are you controlled? Still nothing. I remember who I was before meetings replaced mornings and silence replaced arguments. I remember laughing loudly, choosing badly, owning mistakes. Now everything is correct. Approved. Managed. She knocks lightly. Don't stay up, she says. Tomorrow is full. Okay, I reply. When she leaves, I touch the glass, cold and clean. I whisper, this is a cage. Gold-plated, admired, invisible. I don't know when I stepped inside. I only know the door doesn't show hinges. I lean closer to the mirror. The man staring back blinks like he's waiting for permission. I don't recognize him. I don't know if he's broken or trained. All I know is this life looks like freedom to everyone else and like confinement to me. And for the first time, I wonder if the problem is my weakness or if the cage was always meant to look beautiful. She stopped me near the elevators, close enough that cameras wouldn't notice mouths moving. Walk, she whispered. I did. She didn't look at me. You look different, she said. Careful. I asked, about what? She said, your wife. My stomach tightened. We reached the parking area. She finally faced me. I'm Mara, she said. Senior strategy, I nodded. She lowered her voice. Men who leave her disappear. I laughed weakly. That's dramatic. She didn't smile. I've seen it. I asked. Seen what? She said. Careers end quietly. Partners fade out. Names vanish from lists. I said. You're exaggerating. She shook her head. I warned one man before you. I asked. What happened? She paused. He sells insurance now. Won't answer calls. I felt cold. Why tell me? I asked. She replied. Because you still ask questions. We stood by her car. Don't repeat this, she said, and don't confront her. I said, I'm not planning anything. She studied me. She knows before you decide. Then she left. No drama. No comfort. I tried to check records, names, transfers. Everything led nowhere. Files closed. Profiles empty. People smiled and said, I don't remember. I asked HR casually, old teams? They replied, reorganized. I searched online. Results blurred. It felt intentional. At dinner I was quiet. My wife noticed. You didn't talk much today, she said. Long meetings, I replied. With who? She asked. Strategy, I said. She smiled. I thought so. That night she held my hand. You seem tense, she said. Are you worried? No, I lied. You can tell me anything, she said softly. I nodded, heart racing. The next morning Lena adjusted my schedule. Added a check-in, she said. With who? I asked. With your wife, she replied. At lunch my wife said, people tell me you're distracted. People? I asked. She smiled. They care, do they? They report, she corrected gently. I thought of Mara, of vanished names. I felt watched. When I typed, I hesitated. When I spoke, I measured. Fear lived in my chest now, sharp and alert. That evening I asked lightly, have many people left your companies? She laughed. People come and go. Anyone leave badly? She looked at me. Why? No reason. She reached across the table. You don't need to worry about others, she said. Stay focused. I tried to call an old colleague. The number was inactive. I asked another. He replied, busy. I stopped asking. She became gentler. Too gentle. Rest, she said. I'll handle things. She canceled my plans. She sat closer. She smiled more. Control wrapped itself in warmth. One night she said, I feel you pulling away. I'm tired, I replied. From me? She asked. No, I said quickly. She kissed my cheek. Good, she whispered. In bed I stared at the dark. I replayed Mara's warning. I imagined doors closing before I reached them. I felt hunted without being chased. I understood something then. Leaving openly would trigger alarms, questions, stories. She didn't need to stop me loudly. She only needed to let the system respond. I whispered to myself, not yet. The room stayed silent. I knew escape would require patience, masks, and quiet moves. Anything loud would end me. For the first time, I stopped dreaming about walking out. I started thinking about surviving inside. I stopped resisting out loud. That was my first mistake corrected. I smiled more. I nodded faster. I said yes before questions formed. You're calmer, she said one morning. I learned, I replied. The words tasted bitter. Inside, I felt dirty, like I was rehearsing someone else's life. But fear taught me obedience faster than love ever did. She relaxed. I saw it in her shoulders. In her silence. In the way she stopped checking my phone every night. Good, she said once. Stability suits you, I thanked her. That thank you hurt the most. Her brother came for dinner. He leaned back, eyes sharp, grin careless. So, he said, still managing meetings for my sister? I smiled, helping where I can. He laughed. Helping, he repeated. That's cute. She didn't stop him. She never did. He's sensitive, she said, amused. I swallowed the humiliation like medicine. Later he said, you know she could replace you tomorrow. I replied, I know. He raised his glass, at least you're realistic. My hand stayed steady. That scared me. Humiliation had become routine. Survival made it normal. In private, she said, don't take him seriously. I asked, why don't you stop him? She said, he's family. I nodded. Family meant immunity. I learned that too. I started listening instead of reacting. Numbers, transfers, casual mentions. This account is frozen. That one reports quarterly. She spoke freely now, confident I was tame. I asked small questions. What does that fund do? She answered. Nothing you need to worry about. I memorized everything. At night I hated myself. You're weak, I whispered. You're surviving, another voice answered. I held on to that one. I stopped dreaming of doors. I started dreaming of leverage dots. She touched my face one evening. You're finally trusting me, she said. I forced a smile. I am. The lie settled between us like furniture. Her brother texted later. Still here? I didn't reply. Silence felt safer. I opened a notebook and wrote nothing obvious. Dates, phrases, patterns. I told myself this wasn't betrayal. It was insurance. I needed time. Time meant obedience. One night she said, I don't feel resistance anymore. I said, I stopped fighting. She kissed me. Good, she said. Fights waste energy. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, planning quietly. Not escape. Preparation. Control lives on paper and patience. I learned that from her. I had become what she wanted. Quiet, agreeable, predictable, and inside that disguise something sharp was forming. I wasn't free, I wasn't brave. But I wasn't careless anymore. That would matter later. I reached out to him using an old number I barely remembered. It's me, I said. I need advice. He replied slowly. That's risky, I said. So is staying blind. We spoke in fragments. No names, no plans, just concepts. Side accounts, he said. Consulting labels, delayed visibility. I listened like my life depended on it. It did. We met once, briefly. You're being watched, he said. Always assume that. I nodded. I need something invisible, he replied. Nothing is invisible. But some things are ignored. He showed me how attention moves. Where money sleeps quietly, I felt anger rise. Fear still lived there, but anger was louder now. At home I stayed careful. Too careful. She noticed. You're distracted, she said. Work, I replied. She stepped closer. Which work? I smiled. Yours. She watched me longer than usual. My pulse raced. That night she checked my phone. I pretended not to notice. She paused. Who's this? She asked. I leaned over. Old contact, I said. Nothing important. She studied my face. Delete it, I did. My hands didn't shake. That surprised me. Later she said, you know I manage your future. I replied, I trust you. The words felt like armor, thin but necessary. I started moving pieces slowly, small amounts. No patterns, no urgency. Patience was survival now. I stopped thinking about running. I started thinking about landing. One evening she asked, if you left me, what would you do? I laughed lightly. I wouldn't survive. She smiled. Good answer. Her eyes searched mine. I held steady. She almost caught me once. Why is this account active? She asked, voice flat. My heart screamed. I said calmly, legacy issue. She stared. Seconds stretched. Fix it, she said. I will. She turned away. I exhaled silently. In the bathroom, I looked at myself and whispered, not yet. Anger burned clean now. Fear had taught me caution. Anger taught me direction. She held my face later. You belong with me, she said. I nodded. I know. Inside, something broke free. I wasn't planning an escape anymore. I was building one. Quietly, patiently, correctly. And for the first time, I didn't feel small. I felt dangerous. I felt it before she said anything. A shift, a tightening. She started touching my arm in public, laughing louder, calling me my rock in front of people who nodded approvingly. We're closer than ever, she told them. I smiled and felt smaller. At home, she said. I've been thinking about our future. I thought we already planned it, I replied. She smiled. More structure. She announced new boards, new roles, new obligations that carried my name. It's symbolic, she said. It shows unity. I asked, do I have a choice? She laughed. Why would you want one? Papers arrived. Dinners followed. People congratulated me. I signed things without pens touching my skin. She watched me more closely now. Where were you? Meetings, I said. With who? Your people, she nodded. Good. One evening she brought home a man I hadn't met. This is Victor, she said. He helps keep us safe. Victor shook my hand lightly. His eyes stayed on my face longer than necessary. Pleasure, he said. Later she added, he's thorough. I understood without asking. Victor appeared everywhere after that. In lobbies? Across streets, near cafes I used to like. When I asked, is he following me? She replied, you're imagining threats again. Victor smiled once, thin and knowing. She used guilt carefully. After all I've done for you, she said. After everything I built. I said, I never asked for this. She touched my face. You needed it. Her affection felt like restraint. At a charity event, she held my hand tightly. Don't drift, she whispered. Cameras flashed. Smile, she said. I did. Inside, panic pressed hard. I felt owned publicly now, my identity wrapped in hers. That night I said, I feel watched. She replied, you're protected. That's not the same, I said. It is if you trust me, she answered. Victor knocked on the door later. Routine check, he said politely. He looked around, uninvited. All good, he concluded. My stomach turned. When the door closed, I said, this is too much. She replied calmly, you're safe. I almost gave up then. I sat on the bed and stared at my hands. Maybe this is my life, I whispered. She heard me. Acceptance brings peace, she said, lying beside me. Her arm felt heavy. The next morning she said, I scheduled a joint interview. About what? I asked. Us, she said. Transparency builds trust. With who? Everyone, she replied. Fear flooded me. Not loud. Thick. I saw years ahead, scripted, smiling, monitored. I saw myself disappearing completely. Victor watched from the hallway. She smiled from the kitchen. The cage was closing. I went to the bathroom and locked the door. I looked at myself and barely recognized the man staring back. If you wait, I whispered, you vanish. My heart raced. I knew then hesitation was surrender. When I stepped out, she asked, are you okay? Yes, I said. She smiled. Good, but something hardened in me. The chains were tighter now, but clearer too. I understood the truth she didn't expect me to see. If I didn't act now, quietly, carefully, I wouldn't just lose freedom. I would lose myself. And that loss would be permanent. She followed me to the door. You're quiet again, she said. I'm thinking, I replied. About leaving? She asked lightly. I shook my head. About staying. She laughed, relieved. Good, we're stronger together. Victor's voice came from the hall. Car is ready. She said, see? Everything runs smoothly. I nodded. It does. In the car, she said, you owe me honesty. I give you everything, I replied. That's not the same, she said. It is for me, I answered. She squeezed my hand harder than necessary. Remember who built this, she said. I remember, I replied. As the city moved past, I counted exits in my head and stopped myself. Not yet. Every instinct screamed to disappear, to confess, to beg for quiet. I stayed still. Panic wanted speed. Survival demanded patience. That night she said, promise me you won't scare yourself. I promise, I lied. I felt cornered but awake. Fear no longer froze me. It clarified things. I whispered into the dark. Now or never. I met my friend in a place without cameras, noise, or comfort. You look different, he said. Different how? I asked, quieter, he replied. Like you're carrying something sharp. I didn't answer. We sat. He waited. Finally, he said, You asked me here for a reason. I have proof, I said. Of what? Of who she really is. He leaned forward. You could burn her world. I know. Would it work? Yes. Would it end her? Probably. Would it end you? I stayed silent. He said, You've been controlled for years. Revenge sounds fair. It does, I admitted. So why do you look sick? Because I see myself afterward, I said. Still tied to her. He frowned. Justice matters. So does becoming someone I can live with, I said. I imagined exposing everything. Headlines, shock. Apologies that meant nothing. Her panic, her fall. I imagined feeling powerful for a moment, then empty. If I destroy her, I said, she owns my ending. He asked, and if you leave? I disappear, I replied, quietly. You lose status. I keep myself. He looked at me carefully. What do you want? Peace, I said. Not revenge? No, I said slowly. Revenge keeps the door open. We talked about consequences. He said, You'll start over. I know. Without money? Yes. Without protection? Yes. That scares you? Less than staying, I said. He sighed. You could make her regret everything. I don't want regret, I replied. I want distance. That's harder, he said. I'm ready, I answered. When I got home, she was waiting. You're late, she said. Long day, I replied. She studied my face. You seem calm. I am, I said. She poured wine. You've been loyal, she said. I've been quiet, I corrected. She smiled. Same thing? No, I said. It's not. She laughed lightly. You're dramatic. Maybe, I replied. I went to the bathroom and locked the door. I stared at my reflection. What kind of man do you want to be? I asked myself. One who burns bridges and stands in the smoke, or one who walks away unnoticed? I knew the answer before finishing the question. Back in the bedroom, she said, You belong here. I don't belong anywhere, I said. She frowned. That's not true. It is for me, I replied. That night I didn't plan exposure. I planned disappearance. Not running, leaving correctly. I accepted the cost. Comfort, status, applause, all replaceable. My mind was not. I lay awake thinking about power. Hers was loud. Mine would be silent. Hers needed control. Mine would need courage. I texted my friend later. I'm not doing it. He replied, Doing what? Destroying her. A pause. Then, good. Why? Because freedom isn't loud, he wrote. It's final. I turned my phone face down. For the first time, the choice felt settled. I wasn't choosing mercy. I wasn't choosing fear. I was choosing who I would be after this ended. I closed my eyes and felt something unfamiliar. Relief. I wasn't taking revenge. I was taking my life back. I left without a fight. I waited for quiet, for routine, for the moment no one watches. She slept. I didn't wake her. I folded nothing. I took what fit in my pockets and my head. At the door I paused, listening for footsteps, for breath, for control. None came. My phone buzzed once. A message from her assistant asking for confirmation. I turned it off. Silence felt heavy and holy. The elevator ride stretched. Every floor felt like a question. I answered none. Outside, the city didn't care. A driver nodded. I shook my head. I walked. Each step felt wrong and right together. My chest burned. My hands shook. I kept moving. My phone lit up again. Her name. I didn't answer. It rang. It stopped. It rang again. I kept walking. Pick up, she texted. I didn't. I left behind the car, the keys, the titles. I left behind the mirror that taught me to smile on command. I left behind rooms that knew my schedule better than I did. A second call came. I imagined her calm breaking. I imagined questions turning sharp. For the first time, her power had nowhere to land. Streets don't listen. Strangers don't report. I ducked into a cafe and sat near the door. The barista asked, What can I get? Water, I said. Anything else? No. My phone vibrated. Where are you? She texted. I watched the words appear and disappear. I didn't respond. Another call. I let it die. Minutes passed. The water tasted like air. I checked the time. I checked my pulse. Both were mine. Outside, a siren passed. I flinched. Then I laughed, quietly, at myself. Fear still lived in me, but it didn't own the room. A voicemail arrived. I didn't play it. Another text followed. This isn't funny, I smiled. Nothing had ever been funnier. I stood and walked again. I changed directions twice. I used cash. I avoided glass. Every habit she taught me to keep me visible, I broke. The train doors closed behind me. The city blurred. My phone buzzed once more, then went still. I imagined her calling lawyers, drivers, investigators. I imagined them failing. Control needs proximity. Distance starves it. My hand stopped shaking. My breath slowed. Terror sat beside me like a companion, not a jailer. I felt alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. At the last stop, I stepped onto the platform and waited. No one followed. The night opened. I sent one message to my friend. I'm out. He replied, Where are you? Somewhere, I said. I looked around. Unfamiliar signs. Cheap lights. Honest noise. I didn't know what came next. I didn't know where I'd sleep. I knew one thing. No calls. No orders. No schedule. I walked into uncertainty and didn't look back. The platform clock clicked. I waited through another train and let it go. Waiting was new. It felt like choosing. My phone stayed quiet. I stayed standing. A man asked, You lost? I said, No. He nodded and moved on. I bought a ticket to a place I'd never planned to see. The machine accepted cash without judgment. The seat was hard. I welcomed it. Comfort had lied to me before. As the train moved, messages stacked silently. Missed calls. Alerts. Authority without reach. I didn't read them. I watched tunnels open and close and felt time loosen. When the doors opened again, I stepped out and breathed. The air smelled different. I checked my pockets. Everything I needed was there. Everything she gave me was not. I walked until my legs ached. I smiled at nothing. I said my name under my breath and heard it answer. Alone felt dangerous. Alone felt true. I kept going. Dawn would come later. I didn't plan it. I trusted motion. Somewhere ahead was work, a bed, a future without permission. I wasn't safe yet, but I was free enough to keep walking, and that was enough. I crossed a bridge, felt wind, and chose silence again. No witnesses, no explanations, just steps forward into morning. I breathed and kept moving, unclaimed, unfinished, alive. At last alone, I smiled. Finally free. I wake up without alarms now. No assistant texts. No calendar alerts. Just light through a cheap window and the sound of people living. My friend asks, Coffee? I say, Yes. The word feels earned. Do you miss it? He asks as we sit. What? The money. The access. No, I say. I miss myself. Work is simple. Honest. I carry boxes. I answer phones. When someone says, Can you help? I say yes because I want to, not because I'm assigned. At night I'm tired in a clean way. I sleep. I think about fear differently now. It still visits, but it doesn't move my hands. You were never weak, my friend says once. I was scared, I reply. That's not the same. I know, I say. I rent a small place. The walls are thin. The silence is mine. I choose what stays and what leaves. I buy a chair and sit in it for an hour just because I can. No one calls to ask why. Sometimes I hear her voice in my head. You belong with me. I answer it out loud. No. The word closes doors. I don't hate her. That surprised me. Hatred keeps a rope tied. I let the rope drop. She becomes a lesson. Systems hurt people when love turns into control. I learned to spot it early now. One evening, my mother calls. Are you okay? She asks. I am, I say. You sound lighter, she says. I am, I repeat. She pauses. Come visit. I will, I say smiling. I tell the truth carefully, not everything, just enough. She listens. She doesn't judge. That helps. I make mistakes. I hesitate. I doubt. Then I choose again. Choice is a muscle. It grows with use. When I feel small, I remind myself I left. I survived the quiet parts. I can survive this. A stranger asks my name at work. I say it and wait for correction that never comes. It lands gently. Mine. At night I write. Not plans. Reflections. What did you choose today? I ask myself. Some days the answer is rest. Some days it's no. Both matter. I walk without checking shadows. I answer messages when I want. I stop answering when I don't. Freedom isn't perfect. It's honest. I forgive myself for staying too long. I forgive myself for being afraid. Fear kept me alive until courage arrived. They worked together. One morning I catch my reflection and recognize him. Not polished. Not powerful. Present. I nod at him. He nods back. My friend says, "You won." I correct. I understand now that victory isn't loud. It doesn't need witnesses. It's waking up and knowing your day belongs to you. It's leaving rooms without permission. It's staying when you want to. I step outside and breathe. The street is ordinary. That feels like a gift. I move forward without a map, carrying what matters and dropping what doesn't. I was never weak. I was trapped, and I left. That is enough. I talk to myself when fear returns. What if you fail? It asks. Then I learn, I answer. What if you're alone? Then I'm honest, I reply. I rebuild slowly. I save a little. I plan a little. I don't rush. Rushing belonged to cages. Patience belongs to me now. When someone raises their voice, I listen to my body. If it tightens, I leave. No explanations. A coworker says, "You're calm." I practice. I say, "How?" By choosing, I answer. I don't chase closure. It finds me in mornings when I make my bed and evenings when I wash dishes. Ordinary acts stack into dignity. I stand taller without trying. One night I dream of locked doors. I wake and laugh. They're dreams now. I open the window and let air in. You're safe, I tell myself. It sounds true. I don't need to prove anything. I don't need to be believed. My life speaks quietly for me. I keep it that way. One choose myself again and again until the habit becomes home, steady and kind, built from days I own without apology or fear, and I keep choosing quietly daily.